A piece of tech different from the rest. One that caused ripples in the gaming space. This new tech is just a sheet of glass. Today, we'll be taking a look into the Skypad 3.0 Sora Edition. It's a pretty special mousepad review that I've been kind of just postponing since acquiring it around February this year. Now, I've known about Skypad for a bit of time now. I never got to actually own one until I heard a mate of mine was maining it and he was faffing about it quite a bit. Now, the price tag did make me a fair bit more hesitant at first, coming in at a whopping $152 US, including the little discount I used, shout out Bazon for that one. I did end up pulling the trigger and have been kind of just on and off using it in between reviewing other things since getting it. Pushing the price tag aside though, let's take a look at what makes the Skypad so special. First off, we do have the packaging. Now across every single Skypad you ever purchase, including the special limited edition drops, you'll receive the Skypad in a big brown cardboard box. And inside that box is another cardboard box, but a bit cooler in black with a Skypad logo on the front of it. And these wooden grainy textures, actually more so resembling the lines of a 3D printed object like my calibration cube. So very bougie stuff to start with. Opening up the box, we do have a fair amount of packaging because, it's made of glass. We have a sheet of packaging foam on top whilst the whole pad is packaged in the exact same foam around the sides and at the bottom. Great packaging, which I bloody hope so because it's the most expensive mousepad I've ever bought. Lifting up the initial sheet, we are greeted with the limited edition Sora pad in the extra large version, being near the exact same as the Artisan XL at 500 by 400. Now, in this day and age, we have to waifu up everything. It keeps the sales high. But even so, the design is pretty niche. We are greeted with a pop of burnt orange and a navy purpley on the white canvas with the Sora character standing out quite a bit and clearly being the forefront of the design. Now, before going to the breakdown of the surface, the base needs to be mentioned. It's hella naked. We have the canvas vinyl printing that's been posted onto the clear piece of glass, and it has only 4 silicone circle feet in each corner of the pad. It does stay still on the table, but I do feel it's a very poor design choice and will be elaborated on quite a bit later. It does have pretty smooth edges and rounded corners, which makes it look a bit better and gives it a more comfortable feel as it doesn't scrape my wrists, or even give that bump feel of my mouse skates going over it like some cloth pads. Solid thumbs up. Lastly, we get into the surface and how that exactly acts. Now, from my information, the Skypad is a tempered glass sheet that has a very slight nanotexture etching into the surface. Now, it's not rough or anything major, but it definitely makes it different from just a normal window pane. Now, the reason for that texture is it does act as a way for that mouse's sensor to read information, and that information being registered into mouse movement. Even so, it does feel smooth to the touch. Now, my experience with the Skypad has been a wild one. For the longest time, I've solely been using cloth pads, shifting here and there from hybrids, balanced, and speed pads, but nothing compared to the Skypad experience. I knew going into it for the first time that the pad will be fast, but damn, it's a speed demon. I just knew I was in for some stupid fun. But even so, the learning curve was huge. There is no friction or stopping power whatsoever, just raw input and reaction is being used. I literally had to tweak down all my sensitivities in-game to compensate for the use of the Skypad. I paired different mouse skates sometimes to different mouse pads, but for the most part used the speediest skates I could. Now besides glass skates, I just generally feel they're terrible experience and damage cloth pads faster. Skypad does recommend to use core pad controls if you do want to have a bit more of control, or if you want more speed, opt for the Tiger Ice. Now recently, I have switched from the Tiger Ice to the X-Ray Pad Jades and the Obsidian Dots. The Jades are bloody fast, but they do also sound a fair bit scratchy. The Obsidians give me a tiny bit more control and heaps less scratchy sounds and feel. So getting my wombo combo ready with the Phantom Medium with the Obsidian Dots, as well as just refining my sensitivity in Apex Legends, my personal performance has gone up quite a bit because of the whole Skypad thing. It forced me to not just rely on that third dimension of a mousepad, which is downward force to cause more drag in controlling my recoil. I did manage to stabilize myself a bit more, especially with me having, some shaky hands on occasions, and it did make for me having an increase in tracking performance as well as recoil control. The experience made for a really fun time. But even so, there's a fair share of cons. Now, from recollection, the Skypad does not have an oleophobic coating, which means that you will definitely see fingerprints and body oils or sweat on the pad, and it can cause slower spots or just make the glides feel a bit funky. Now on top of that, of a good course of use, my wrist got a bit red and irritated. Because of the lack of an oleophobic coating, sweat from my hands would cause a gripping drag, so that constant rubbing eventually ate into my wrists. I tried wearing a hoodie and having the sleeve covering my wrists, but that also just made for a very clunky and worse feeling experience. Other options can be to have a little desktop fan just pointing towards your wrist as you game, or even getting an arm sleeve. If you're a bit broke for those, I started off with a stocking and cut some holes into it, and that was pretty cool in my personal opinion. After a bit, I did end up getting the focus arm sleeve, and it's been a baller. Very breathable, and it sits a good distance over the wrist. Now besides the coatingless quality, we do have the excessive need to wipe down the pad. Any dust particles or hairs on the pad make every mouse stroke sound like a beautiful choir of screeching tires. It's terrible. So before every use or even in between games, I'd quickly just wipe the pad down to just get rid of dust and some body oils. The sides are up next. I feel the Skypad is at that point in development where they can bevel the sides of the pad. Just rounding off the edges like what they did on the GameSense Sonar pads would be gnarly for comfortability. And now my last irk of the Skypad is the choice of base feet. You are having to rely on these 4 small flat silicone pads that can cause for the pad to be wobbly on certain desks, like with my L-shaped desk in the room. Then using bigger amounts of force in the center would cause for flexing in the center. So if they would do a custom base like the Pulsar Superglide for example, it would combat all those issues and also protect the design from scratches or any issues whatsoever. But with that being said, I do feel that the Skypad does have a lot to offer. They did certainly cause a huge wave in the mousepad scene, where there is so much competition right now and still growing, each having different surfaces, textures, speeds, designs, and bases. Do I think I'll main the Skypad? Probably not, but I will frequently visit it just to change things up again for myself if I have a bit of boredom towards cloth pads, just for that bit of extra unhinged fun. It is up to you if you feel the maintenance of the Skypad as well as the price is worth it for you. And this coming week I do have a very special pad coming up, so keep an eye out for my Twitter for that.
Oh shit.
Thanks for watching, take care and peace.